This is Bill Kimler, co-host of the Black, White, and Blue in the South podcast. This Halloween, stand out from the crowd with ZJZDesigns.com. Their brand new limited edition spooky prints are here to haunt your wardrobe in the best way possible. With 5 new chilling designs, you'll be ready for trick-or-treating, haunted houses, and everything this spooky season has to offer. Whether you're getting festive for the holidays or just looking for unique, high-quality designs to up your style game, ZJZDesigns.com has you covered. Shop now at ZJZDesigns.com and discover the t-shirts that'll make you stand out in any season. Don't get caught without the coolest Halloween t-shirt. Grab yours before they disappear. ZJZDesigns.com.
The All About Nothing podcast may have language and content
that isn't appropriate for some.
Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, Nothingers, to another episode of the All About Nothing podcast. This is episode number 229. I am Barrett Gruber.
I'm Zach King.
All right. We're going to introduce our guest this week, Karl Smith, here in just a minute. He's with the Voter Education Project. Please subscribe and share the show. That's how we get new listeners. Also, if you could, please consider supporting the show financially by visiting our webpage and clicking on the support link. If you can't do that, please drop a review, get us those 5 stars, hit the thumbs up, or leave a comment. All of that helps drive us up higher in all of these podcast ratings, shows, things, whatever. I want to thank real quick Matt Villardo for being on last week. He, of course, is the Democratic nominee for the South Carolina House District 26 in Fort Mill, South Carolina. If you've election we're days away, and Matt's campaign is still we're thriving. I'll just say we're thriving. You can visit Matt Villardo's campaign page. It is mattv4sc.com. In fact, while we're recording this, they are out canvassing across Fort Mill, which is awesome. And if you haven't ever canvassed before, honestly, there's really nothing to it. A lot of it is just engaging with the people. The list of the people that you're going to go visit are it's friendly territory, so a lot of it's just making sure that people have a plan to go vote on the 5th. We are, as of the date of this release of this episode, early voting has started in South Carolina. In fact, by this time, early voting has started across the country. So my suggestion is, if you can, early vote. If you have the ability to mail in vote, you're watching this right now and you haven't already mailed it in, stop listening, stop playing this video and audio, and go ahead and fill out your mail-in ballot and send it in. You don't want anything to wreck or slow down the process of your ballot getting counted. You can also make sure to check your voter registration. You can go to theallaboutnothing.com/voter. And you can check your voter registration, make sure you know where you're voting as far as your precinct. Also, make sure that your address on the rolls is correct, because that is one of the big things that we check for as a poll worker. We make sure that the address matches. We make sure that you look like your picture. Do everything you can to make sure that on election day or voting or early, whatever, that it is the process is seamless. The system is we require voter IDs, and because we require voter IDs, let's just make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that is as simple as possible. And just a PSA for all of the voters or the poll workers that are going to be out there. One, thank you for doing it. I'm not doing it this year because Matt's campaign out in Fort Mill, but all the poll workers, we sincerely appreciate it. It is a thankless job, even though people come in and they thank you for your time. It is grueling. It's 14, 15 hours of work. And then at the end of the day, having to get all that information to the voter offices and everything, and all the counting that goes on, and the potential that there will be dismay with all of the counting. So
I have crazy people telling you you're hiding votes, double counting certain votes. Who knows?
The interactions.
Mike Lindell shows up.
Yeah, the interactions that I've had with voters here in Lexington County, and I've been a clerk for the last, I guess, 6 years, since 2018, and the interactions that I have sometimes is just complete nonsense, and it's paranoia, and it's such a simple process. Speaking for the state of South Carolina and Lexington in particular, I know what we do is it's a lot of work, and we're all very proud of the job that we do. And I think that the fact that Lexington County has had, as far as I know, no actual voter fraud, I think that speaks volumes, specifically to the Elections Commission office, or the Elections Commission office, as well as all of those that volunteer to run these elections. So, all right, getting on to our show today on the pod, we are honored to have Karl Smith with us. Welcome, Karl.
Thank you.
Karl is a dedicated advocate for voter education and civic engagement, having played an instrumental role in the 2024 Voter Education Project. The website is votereducationproject.com. His focus is on empowering citizens by ensuring that they have access to critical information about voting rights, registration, and upcoming elections. Karl's efforts help equip communities with the tools to make informed decisions by strengthening our democracy. So welcome, Karl. Thank you for being here on the show.
Welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
Karl and I met at the Lexington County September monthly Democratic Party meeting. And that was the first meeting that I have actually been to probably since Bernie was up for running back in 2016, because I was the precinct executive commissioner for my precinct for the Democratic Party in Lexington. And it's good to go. You get to meet a lot of the people that are also very passionate about making sure that, one, people turn out to vote, but two, know that the Democratic Party is likely the party for them, that when it comes to the actual issues that are affecting all of us on a day-to-day basis, that the Democratic Party is really the one that's more engaged in trying to find solutions and working with Republicans to get those solutions enacted so that the state of South Carolina is no longer at the bottom of the list. But as far as our listeners, Karl, tell us a little bit about the Voter Education Project.
Well, it's just something I put together, a few years ago, and it's after many years of kind of being frustrated about how the Democrats have a great product, but they haven't sold it well, whereas the Republicans have a crappy product, but they sell the hell out of it. So it's just that there's so many people that think that that the Republicans are better on the economy, than Democrats. But if you go back to the fundamentals, basic macroeconomics and behavioral, why businesses do what they do, why people do what they do, and all that, which is apolitical, it's obvious that the Democrats are on the right side of the, of the fundamentals, and the Republicans are just frankly on the wrong side. So basically, over the last couple of decades, working with various campaigns and getting people are doing canvassing and phone banking and all sorts of things. And then trying to get the Democratic Party to actually message along the economic lines of actually how what we do works. They've always talked about, the evidence and so on. They've talked about kind of the policies, but they've not talked about the mechanics or what's behind it. And all of us, and, as an I'm actually an electrical and computer engineer. So it's about, from an engineer standpoint, it's about, what are the necessary conditions? What does it take for something to work? And, we all understand, like with our car, we don't understand a lot about our car. We understand, a few of the basics, but the cars are incredibly complicated, and no one person actually understands every single little thing about all the microelectronics and how to do all that. Nobody understands all. But we understand that you've got to keep gas in the gas tank, and you got to have, if it's a gas car, obviously, and you've got to have air in the tires and a place to sit and a place to be warm, comfortable. And you got to, you got to be able to have a windshield, and you got to be able to see through it. And, so there's just some basic necessary conditions, and we all get that. And so somebody tells you, oh, put sand in your gas tank. You're going to go, what? You're going to know that's a bunch of BS.
Yeah.
Can I say bullshit?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's a bunch of bullshit, and so no matter how loud and how many times they say it, you're going to know it's bullshit, and that's what we need to do with people in terms of the economy. When the Republicans talk about, tax cuts for the rich, or, tax cuts and being able to get businesses to invest, or they're supposed to invest, and that's supposed to trickle down, right? Well, the problem is that businesses, they invest when their customers have more money, not when they have more money. So you have to look at the basic behavioral principles of what actually makes things work. And you have to ask the right questions here. Like, what do people need to thrive? That's a basic question that we should all be asking. When somebody says, "Oh yeah, we're going to make it better for you," we're on, the Republicans will claim they're on the people's side, the worker side, and all that stuff. But you look at their policies, and you look at, what, and then you look at the fundamentals, and you go, well, that doesn't really work. And a lot of Democrats will say, "Oh, trickle down doesn't work," but they never explained why it doesn't work or how it doesn't work, and they pointed to the evidence and all that.
No, that's a good point.
So basically, if we're going to have people thrive, and another thing that Democrats, they don't come out as hard on the business side. And so, they get labeled as kind of anti-business. Well, the reality is that people, we need successful businesses, because that's where our products, services, or most of our products, services, and jobs come from, right? So we can't have all these failing businesses and for us to thrive. On the other hand, businesses need healthy and educated customers, and they need the people to thrive. The more people thrive, the more businesses thrive. You can have an economy that works for the few businesses and, kind of a concentration of wealth and, winner take all and all that kind of stuff, but for really the most amount of businesses, and especially most of the small businesses, for them to thrive, more of them thrive if we're thriving. So it's not like you can, be on one side or the other. We've got to basically do both. So then you ask the question, well, what does it take for people to thrive? And what does it take for businesses to thrive? But then when the Democrats try to do things like educate people, or, improve their health, or, invest in research and all this stuff, then the Republicans label them as socialists. Now, if the Republicans do it, then it's not socialism.
Right.
But anyway, it's kind of funny. So basically, what I've been working on then is, well, how do we boil this down, for people? And initially, I constructed the website as kind of a research thing, or something, a little more deeper information for candidates, for more higher information people. I'm going to actually reconstruct, or plan to reconstruct and kind of simplify it, get a few basic things up there, and then, have those other resources available for, people that really want to kind of do a deeper dive. But do you want me to go into some of the messaging then?
I was gonna ask you. So when it comes to, obviously, educating voters is it's a great title. The idea of making sure that voters have either access to all of the information that they could potentially find, because we're inundated with news sources, like, between MSNBC and Fox News. And I tell my father-in-law this all the time. I say, I listen to Fox News because I want to hear how they are attacking
right.
The information that's coming out of the right or the left. I listen to MSNBC because they do a fairly good job of attacking what's coming out of the right. But what I get out of both of them is that it's more about blame games, and the Republicans have the benefit of cognitive dissonance, where and not all Republicans. I have plenty of Republican friends that are even voting for Harris because they've gotten tired of the rhetoric or the whining that comes from this idea that the Republicans are so disenfranchised with everything, completely ignoring that there was 8 years of George W. Bush and that there was 4 years of Donald Trump, and there was 12 years of Reagan and H.W. Bush. That those policies from even 1981 are still having an impact on things like deregulation. People complain about the fact that the price of things at the supermarket are still as high as they are, and how that's a result of inflation. But inflation right now is around the 2.5%, where a good economy needs for inflation to be, because that means that value is increasing on things the way that it's supposed to. It's a very controlled increase in the cost of things. Pay should be increasing at the same rate. I mean, the cost of living continues to go up, and we continue, although in the last 4 years, I think Zach and I can both speak to our own personal situations. We have benefited from the fact that pay has been increasing, whether it's our jobs. We see more companies, corporately owned franchises across the country that our employees are benefiting from the fact that places like McDonald's and Chick-fil-A in a number of locations. These are fast food, first time jobs that are moving to a $12 or $15 minimum. And that is because it's becoming increasingly clear that it's necessary. People can't live off of $7.25 or $7.50, whatever the minimum is.
A lot of corporations understand that if they don't pay people well, their customers don't have money.
Mm-hmm.
And a poor person, they have lots of needs and so on. And a person that's living hand to mouth, they have lots of needs and they'll spend the money quickly. They just, they're not a good customer. They really need, and look at third world countries where they don't value their workers well, then 2/3 to 3/4 of their population, are in poverty. So, anyway, I can dive into some of the things that I'm trying to get across here.
Yeah.
Can I point this out too real quick, if you don't mind?
Sure.
Speaking on the economy is, people who are going to go vote for Trump are like, well, the economy was a lot better when Trump was in office. He had Obama's economy. And then to the end of it, we inherited Trump's economy by the time Biden came in.
Right.
And now Biden's fixing it. And we want to continue with the fixing with Kamala Harris. But then if Trump, say, let's hope it never happens, wins, he's just going to tank it again and go off of what he was until he tanks it at the end of it again. And then someone's going to have to be up to pick up those pieces.
Well, if we get people a little more informed on the fundamentals, they'll be able to pick out bullshit when they hear it.
Right.
No matter how, and the Republicans are very good about getting on a message and then staying on that. And then if a person really doesn't understand that sand doesn't go in your gas tank, they're going to go, okay, fine, let's try the sand. Now the problem is that it's a slow moving disaster, so it doesn't have an immediate effect. This long-term effect, and so like one president will benefit from the previous president, so even if they're doing bad things, they're benefiting from the inertia of this good economy and so on, and things that we've done even many decades ago. Think if we had never put the money into research and coming up with microelectronics, where would we be today?
Yeah,
every single person, every single business, we've made billions, trillions of times on the money, and it will keep on paying off, for centuries and centuries to come. So anyway, I get into and trying to get people kind of bullshit proofed, because if we can do that, or a little more, and stuff, and Trump is a phenomenal con artist. The thing that he has in his Art of the Deal book, the thing that he has against conning people, or at least at that time, you know what it was?
What?
That you couldn't get away with it for very long.
He admitted it in his book.
That's what, that was
that's a grift inception.
He figured out
right
the
there.
long con, and the presidency is the ultimate long con if you're of that disposition and that kind of person, unfortunately. So he's conning a lot of people and everything, but we don't, people just don't. They don't have the right filters to hear the cons and stuff. But anyway, so if we look at what do people need to thrive? Well, there's three basic things. We need basic public investments. Well, there's actually a little bit more. And then we need a fair system, and we need to value workers. People need to have a fair wage. If they don't make much, or the system is not fair, so it's benefiting these other people, but not, not very, various groups. Or if we're not making the basic public investments, then they don't do well and so on. So in our basic public investments, and that's where, we get called socialists a lot. Now let's look at that a little bit. Basic public investments, what is that? And that's a term that I came up with as kind of an umbrella for people to understand these various things. Okay, so what does it take for a person to thrive? Do they need education? Will they thrive more with education? Well, I think most people would probably say, duh. How about healthcare and being healthy and have access to healthcare? Yeah. What about infrastructure? Being able to get places and do things, all the things that we need to do that. What about research? Do we benefit from research? Well, there's a ton of ways and stuff that we benefit, and they're figuring out, what we're doing that's killing us and what we're doing that helps us, and and all that. And then microelectronics and even AI. That's a lot of government basic research that even got this huge multiplier into the future of our productivity. What about safe communities, community development, and infrastructure? So that's the group of things. Now, okay, so that would benefit people. What about businesses? What do they really need to thrive? Well, do they need health? Do they need healthy employees? Is that delivered by whatever healthcare that they're provided, or has that been more of a function of what the healthcare that they had since birth? I think most people would get it. It's a longer picture than what they're getting.
Yeah.
What about education?
For sure.
Do they need an educated employee? Do they benefit from that? Would they even exist without the right educated people? A lot of businesses wouldn't. What about research? Do they benefit from research? Well, yeah. In fact, a lot of them wouldn't exist without the research investments that we made in the past. What about infrastructure? Well, I think even the Republicans understand that, businesses need infrastructure. Now they want to make it like a pay-as-you-go kind of thing versus a much more efficient system, less costly system, and that you just build it and then people can access it, and you don't stratify or you don't cut out people and businesses that, oh, you're just a small business, so therefore you don't have access to this or whatever. What about safe communities? Do they need a safe community to do business in? What about community development? Do they benefit from having a place for their people to want to live and their customers to want to be and all of that? So guess what? Our businesses need our basic public investments, many of them to even exist, and especially to thrive. So is that really social? So you think about pure capitalism, if everybody, were responsible for their own safety, for their own, infrastructure, for their own, health. And it'd be like a person being out in the desert with nothing, right?
Yep.
Well, how well would they do? Well, they might survive. Maybe not.
No, it's like
not.
You look at that like the Wild Wild West when you had individuals out mining or panning for gold. They'd literally come back with potentially, crumbs, and that was their only source of income. The likelihood is they were fending for themselves. They were living in squalors, attempting to live and perform this function that would eventually, net some sort of a profit. They'd have to travel by trails that were unregulated and unmaintained, and the likelihood, of being hurt on, it's
living in towns that had no governmental influence outside of your local sheriff.
They didn't even have like public education in the earlier part of the 1800s. It started kind of through the 1800s. By the end of it, so it really got going a lot better in the 1900s and so on. But Do you know about how many people, what percentage of Americans were in poverty back in the 1800s?
Like 70%.
I would figure it's pretty high.
It was very high. It's like a third world country. Okay,
Mhm.
now we can, now with enough Republican policy, we might be able to get back there if that's what they really want to do.
Right. Is that the
You know, if
America
we
you want
cut
to
our-
make great again? Yeah, is that what we're doing?
Yeah,
Right.
there's this mentality that people should be able to fend for themselves, but completely ignoring the fact that fending for themselves nowadays includes the fact that we have social services, not socialism, but it's social services that are
Right.
provided because people are paying, the majority of that being paid for by the taxes that come from the lower class and the middle class. These are things that keep you safe. The fact that you can walk into a hospital and the hospital has to treat you regardless of whether or not you have insurance, whether you have some way of financially paying for those services. Yeah, the state will come after you as a collection agency in South Carolina afterwards, but you still will have those services provided to try and save your life. These are all, and I think you're building towards it, but these are things that people don't seem to recognize. These are all democratic value. These are values of the Democratic Party that started really 100 years ago.
And they used to be,
Yeah,
and Republicans voted for a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Way back, we wouldn't, if we didn't have both parties supporting it, we wouldn't have had all the great programs and really the investments in education and, health. We created this healthcare system. And I mean, we've had just a lot of the money and the research and so on. So we've benefited upon the shoulders or on the shoulders of all of our, of all these past investments and everything. And it's not, and so pure capitalism would be very anemic. It would be very, because businesses really wouldn't be able to get started because they couldn't create their own necessary, they can't create their own necessary conditions. They can't, to thrive, to even exist. They can't, or for most part. Okay, you can sell some vegetables. You can, there's, really simple businesses, but the kind of complex businesses that we have today would not exist. So really, it's not, democratic. I think democratic socialism is kind of a misnomer in that it's because if you look at those countries that do that most products and services, and there's another fundamental thing that you need to understand. Most products and services in those countries are coming from where? Businesses.
Yeah.
They're not coming from government. Okay, and these are what we're calling socialism. Why would we call something social like one thing when it's mostly something else? So it's really a sustainable capitalism that's working for their whole population versus a rigged capitalism that's working for the few. So it's these are all capitalistic systems, and there's business people want to create their own businesses. Democrats, now Republicans, they're implying that Democrats want to take your property. They want like hardcore socialism and take your property and control your life and everything. And
That's
what
propaganda.
Basic public investments. Go ahead.
That's propaganda.
Right,
That's
it's propaganda. So
what you're being told.
Our basic public investments, if we can get that term into, and the goal of all of this is really to change and add to the national discussion this whole concept of basic public investments and how that works. Because once people understand that, they're going to say kind of like when Republicans call it like socialism, like, oh, taking our opportunities. No, these create opportunities. And these are investments that pay back. If we we make the investments that pull a person out of poverty, they pay far more taxes over their lifetime. They have far more money to be better customers for businesses. How is that a bad thing? And they actually do pay back. They create a profit for us. When we make these investments, we not only get paid back as taxpayers, we make a profit on it over time. So you need something to kickstart these things. But anyway, so we have our basic public investments, and that these are things that are needed by everybody, both businesses. Think if we did, was another thing in there was safety nets. Think if we didn't have our safety nets. The faster we pull somebody out or a business out or community out or whatever, then they're back contributing to the economy again. If we just let them, flounder and and everything, they're not only not helping themselves, they're not helping the rest of us. So it's in our best, it's in our financial, it's not only morally right, it's financially smart. And this whole thing about conservatism, like, why wouldn't we borrow? I mean, would a conservative not borrow money to build a house or something that's going to actually pay back over, provide benefits over a long period of time, or do investments that actually pay back? This is actually a fairly conservative thing, to invest in things that actually do pay back. But to put money in, like, cutting taxes on the wealthy and bigger businesses and so on, doesn't pay back, because they don't invest quickly. They don't put the money back. They don't hire people. They don't invest unless they have more customers and more money. And that's what our basic public investment says. It not only creates these long-term multiplier effects, has an initial stimulation in our economy. It's putting money in the economy, people, and spend it. A poor person that gets more money, how long do they have it in their pocket? Almost zero time. And so another kind of little fundamental thing that everybody needs to understand is speed of money. And you've heard this from other politicians. So we need to kind of double down and explain that to people, that, if you had like $1 trillion in the economy, and nobody spends it, how big is your economy?
Zero.
Zero the same.
If they spend it, if it cycles one time, how big is it? $1 trillion.
Right.
If it cycles 10 times, it's $10 trillion. Wow, that is really cool, because that means, and this is a big counter to Republicans, because they want to always picture, well, if somebody's going to do well or better, somebody else has to do worse. No.
Yep. No.
When we basically, when that poor person has a better job or has a job, they actually create jobs by just having that job.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're spending money in places that then have to create jobs for that money to be spent.
Right.
And to expand on that idea, one of the things that Republicans right now are running on is this idea, Springfield, Ohio, not necessarily the dog eating, but the fact that there are migrants that are here from Haiti, not Haitian, which I think I have heard multiple times now, even from some of the talking heads on Haitian. Yeah, that J.D. Vance recently in a speech acknowledged that the people of Haitian had invaded Springfield, Ohio.
Don't fact check him.
That please don't fact check me. But the point of that is in respect to the economy is, there were 20 to 35,000 Haitian people that came to the United States after their government fell, after the Haitian government basically collapsed. Their prime minister is in exile. Their president was assassinated. It's being run, and this is true, that it's being run literally by somebody whose name is Barbecue, who is a cannibal, and people live in fear of their lives. So the United States granted legal documentation to allow for these migrants to come to the United States. And
that's been policy that's been goes way back. That's not something that Biden implemented or anything like that.
But these are people that now have jobs, and they're working jobs, and they're paying taxes, and they are accountable to the economy, and they are providing for their families. They're spending their money. They're earning income. They're making investments into the communities that they live, and they don't get to vote. They are not allowed to be a part of the system unless they become naturalized by becoming citizens. And I think, and this is just a side, but I'm one of those type of people that says I am appreciative of the fact that they have committed themselves to being a part of the system without being allowed to be a part of the decision part of the system. And I don't understand, and maybe you've had interactions with people on subjects like that, but where is that mental block? Where is that dissonance, that cognitive dissonance that says, that can't recognize that people here in the United States that are here and participating in the grand scheme of things, but they still shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be allowed to participate. They shouldn't be allowed to be here. That the government's funding their lives and all these other things. What is that? What sort of interaction do you have, or how would you combat that sort of?
Well, I think by understanding that in countering this fallacy that somebody to do better, somebody else has to do worse. So if somebody's coming in and they're doing better, then must be some of our citizens are doing worse. No, these people are actually creating, now they're employees of, if we deported, the 10 plus million people that are here illegally, 10, 20 million, whatever it is, if we deported all those people, our economy would collapse and so many businesses would be out of business because then they wouldn't have the workers. And then there's so many, and then the housing market would, there's all sorts of horrible economic impacts and stuff if we actually did that. So this, again, going back to the fundamentals, when we pay, when people do better, and we really need morally and also economically, that everybody makes a livable wage or better. That's valuing all workers. That's another umbrella. So we have, we have basic public investments, and we have valuing all workers, which is basically a livable minimum wage, equal pay for equal work, and workers' rights. So all of those things drive up, wages. Now, individual companies can't raise their wages because of competitions, but basically if you set a level playing field between all these companies, then basically they can rate, that. So an outside entity, government, needs to basically, set that minimum, and then the businesses have more customers, more money. But then they'll say, well, that's just, if we double the wage to $15 an hour, won't that double the price? No, because products and, service costs or wages are typically a very small part of the product and service costs. And where they're not, those products and services should be higher. Okay, but for most things, our system can create far more products and services, except for, periods like COVID where your whole supply chain is interrupted and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But in normal times, our system can create far more products and services than we can consume. So there's not a supply problem. There's a demand problem, and we need to, and that's really what this is about, is how do you create that healthy environment that people can thrive and more businesses can thrive and all of that. So the value in all workers, we need to pay people better. It would cause some inflation, but then it basically, like I think a hamburger was supposed to be like 50 cents more if you actually paid minimum wage. So one of the things I want to talk about is this whole idea about the inflation, and now Republicans are trying to blame Biden and all of that on that. And the Republican or the Democrats are saying, okay, this is a worldwide problem. They don't say, well, Trump would have the same problems. I think we literally need to say that for people to, connect the dots, or more people connect the dots. Okay, so Trump would have had the same problem. In fact, he probably would have done worse. We've done better than any other country in terms of getting our inflation down. Now, there's that period where it was very high, and so some of those prices haven't come down. But a lot of that is not because of increasing employee pay and that kind of thing. It's because so many industries have been allowed to consolidate and then reduce or eliminate competition. So when that happens, then, in these sectors and parts of the food sectors and so on, those prices are way high, So then you say, well, who is actually to blame for this? Is it really the Democrats or is it the Republicans? And if you look at the policies, Republicans say a lot of really nice sounding things. But if you look at their policies, it's not really on the same thing. If you look at their policies, what they've done is they've allowed for companies in industries to combine and contract and so on. So their policies eliminate competition. They go against antitrust laws. And then so people are, the economy is actually doing very well for at least a lot of people, but then there's far too many people now that are still hurting. Who is responsible? Let's get people to think about how much better off would they have been but for the Republicans, not the Democrats, the Republicans blocking the expansion and the continuation of child tax credits. How much better would off they'd be with an extra $3,000 per child and so on. Through this period is going to be turbulent economically. Coming back from COVID, it's going to be turbulent no matter who is. It's a worldwide problem. Trump wouldn't be immune. So there's that, and then also who has been the one, or what party has been responsible for not keeping wages up with inflation. From 1968 to today, it would already have been $17 an hour. But for the Republicans, how better, if you're struggling today, how much better off would you have been if you had a livable wage to make it through this tough time? Yeah. It's a tough time.
Yeah.
But who is responsible for that? It's the Republicans. They're blocking Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, or even if it weren't just about the wages, what if it was about the healthcare portion of it? What if healthcare was not something that you needed to worry about the cost? What if you could go see your doctor, or you could go to the hospital or be treated for something very simple, like let's say you're having headaches, or you've injured your hand and you need your hands to do your job. What if there was a system in place where you could go and be treated for something simple like that ultimately is more designed to keep you healthy rather than just treat the symptoms of what is ailing you. And if that were in place, if you had a system of healthcare and you were able to take out the requirement that you have to go and work for a company that you have to pay for the premium for that healthcare, like we all do, what if that system were in place? This is something that Democrats have been pushing for really since 1930s on this idea that the government, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, health is covered by life, and we all have the right to good health. So, even if we couldn't get national wages up to a living wage, then having a healthcare system that would potentially make sure that people are living healthy rather than just treating symptoms and having to pay a premium on those symptoms.
Right.
And then
it's not a one or the other.
Yeah.
Like we can, get good wages. Our current system, about a third of the money, or close to a third of the money, it's just a freaking overhead of the insurance program. What if we took that money and actually had healthcare providers, instead? Then we could all have, hearing and vision and, all these other services, and actually insure every single person. And diseases are spread by other people. We don't want sick people coming to work because they can't go, can't afford to go to the doctor and all of that. This is something that, there's a Physicians for National Health Program. They got a lot of really good information out there, but we really need to get to single payer. How many businesses don't exist because the entrepreneur, doesn't know that he'll have actually health care if he starts his own business or be able to afford it. And right now, we have the most stupid system. Like if you have to get individual health care, you're basically, or at least before the Obamacare and all that and stuff. But basically, what Republicans want is this system so that if you're young, okay, it doesn't cost much to insure you. The probabilities are pretty low. But in that kind of system, and the Republicans will say, well, if you have your doctor, you like your program, you should be able to keep it. Well, we need to get people to understand that's a game of chance. Are they, that employer that's providing, are they going to be providing that plan that you like? next year, in 5 years, when you start needing, as you get older, you need more and more health care. So, it's are you going to be working for that same employer? So you can't. So in the current system, you're not guaranteed to keep your thing anyway. So we need to have a system
Cobra,
where
but
if
that's
you have single
unaffordable.
payer. Sorry.
We have Cobra, but it's not affordable. All right, real quick, going to interrupt this episode as we recorded a lot of content with Karl Smith, and just wanted to interrupt here because we're going to continue this in an upcoming episode. Actually, it's just going to drop in a couple days, so stick around. So this is going to wrap up this episode. We're going to let me finish out the credits, but just stay tuned. The next episode's coming out very soon, just in a couple days, and you'll get to finish this conversation with Karl Smith. We are only days away from this election, so make sure you've checked your voter registration. You can do that at theallaboutnothing.com/voter. As well, check your voter registration. You want to make sure you also have a plan for your voting. If that means that you need to download and look at your sample ballots, just do a Google search. Check out your search on Google for sample ballot with your zip code, and I guarantee it'll have all the information out there. Research that. Look at all the questions they're asking. If you, when it comes down to who is running as far as Board of Education, that sort of thing, the League of Women Voters has done an outstanding job in putting together and grabbing the resources necessary to know who these candidates are that are running for boards of education and trustees of education across the state and across the country. So I'll put links to the show notes for the League of Women Voters as well. So definitely go check that out. So again, Karl, thank you very much for being here. That is going to do it for episode number 229. Thanks for Zach being here as well. Links to past episodes, podcast platforms, merchandise, and social media available on our website, theallaboutnothing.com. And if you think our financial model of giving away free content and entertainment is silly, and you're in the giving mood, why not become an official Nothinger and support the show monthly? Members get early access to this episode as well as exclusive content, or you can make a one-time donation through the same link. If you'd like to be a part of the show, you can call and leave us a message, 803-672-0533, or you can email the show at theallaboutnothing.com, or join our Discord server. Links available at our website. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. You all stay safe, be kind, have a great week. The All About Nothing podcast is produced and engineered by me, Barrett Gruber. Thanks to Cake for our intro music, Sick of You. You can follow everything Cake the band at cakemusic.com. Thanks to Muff the producer for our outro music. You can follow Muff on Instagram at Muff the producer. I am Barrett Gruber. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Barrett Gruber, or visit my Linktree /Barrett Gruber. Want to support the show? Visit our webpage, theallaboutnothing.com, and become a member. There are several tiers available, including memberships that give you early access to episodes as well as exclusive content. Visit theallaboutnothing.com. To find links to our social media, merchandise, and past episodes, visit theallaboutnothing.com. If you'd like to be heard on the show, you can call and leave us a message. Dial 803-672-0533. If the time between these episodes is more than you can handle, check out our partner podcast. Zach and I host What the Pod Was That with Carrie Simmons. Visit whatthepodwasthat.com for links and details. Me takes a deep dive down the rabbit hole in episodes of Welcome to Wonderland. Available on all the podcast platforms. Visit WTWLpod.com for details. As well, you can listen to the political and social conversation between Dr. Jamela Brooks and Bill Kimmler on Black, White, and Blue in the South, available wherever you listen to podcasts. Please subscribe and share this show. If you're on YouTube, please like and hit the notification bell. Thank you for listening.
Hi again. It's me from the Welcome to Wonderland podcast. This Thanksgiving, make a statement with ZJZ Designs' brand new Thanksgiving Day prints. Whether you're hosting the family feast or just want to show your festive spirit, they've got the perfect design to make your holiday memorable. Introducing Tommy the Turkey. He's fun, he's festive, and he's the star of their latest collection. From playful tees to cozy long sleeves, Tommy will keep you looking stylish as you carve the turkey or sit back and enjoy the pie. And that's not all. Their Thanksgiving prints feature a variety of unique designs that capture the warmth and joy of the season, perfect for yourself or as a gift for a loved one. Shop now at zjzdesigns.com and bring a little extra cheer to your Thanksgiving.
The preceding podcast is a product of Big Media and copyright 2024, all rights reserved.